Turn the engine off and drop the keys outside the window. Do it now. The voice did not just boom through the megaphone. It physically vibrated against the rearview mirror of my sedan. I did not need to look behind me to know how many of them there were. The interior of my car was completely flooded with a blinding, strobing mixture of crimson and sapphire light. It washed out the dashboard, casting long, jagged shadows across the leather steering wheel. Show me your hands. Keep them where I can see them. I slowly lifted my hands, pressing my palms flat against the cold glass of the windshield. My pulse was steady. I did not feel the frantic, suffocating spike of adrenaline that usually accompanies a high-risk felony traffic stop. Instead, a profound, almost clinical sense of clarity washed over my mind. I rolled down the window. The freezing night air hit my face, carrying the sharp metallic scent of rain on hot asphalt and the heavy hum of 3 idling police cruisers. I pulled the exterior handle and pushed the heavy door open. The gravel crunched loudly under my boots as I stepped out onto the slick highway shoulder. Instantly, 3 high-intensity light-emitting diode spotlights pinned me to the darkness. I squinted through the glare, making out the silhouettes of 3 officers taking cover behind their open car doors, their service weapons drawn and leveled directly at my chest. The red dot of a laser sight danced erratically over the center of my coat. Turn around. Interlace your fingers behind your head. Walk backwards toward the sound of my voice. I followed the instructions with the frictionless precision of a ghost. I turned my back to the loaded guns, laced my fingers together, and took slow, measured steps backward. The lead officer closed the distance, grabbed my interlaced fingers with a violent, authoritative grip, and slammed my chest hard against the wet, freezing trunk of my own car. The heavy, ratcheting click of steel handcuffs biting into my wrists sounded incredibly loud over the crackle of the police radios. You are under arrest for a felony hit-and-run resulting in severe bodily injury. The officer growled into my ear, his breath hot against my neck. I did not cry. I did not scream. I watched the dashcam of the cruiser, knowing my heart rate was a steady 58 beats per minute. Across town, my parents and sister were likely clinking glasses, celebrating their successful frame job. Little do they know, I have already begun the silent countdown to their destruction. I sit in the cold, dim light of the precinct, the smell of industrial bleach and stale coffee stinging my nose. I am 30 years old, a senior data architect. I have spent a decade building digital fortresses, yet I could not protect my own life from the people who gave it to me. 3 days ago, at our family dinner, the air was thick with a tension I should have recognized. My father, Vin, kept glancing at his phone, his hands trembling slightly as he gripped his glass of scotch. He was drowning in a gambling debt that ran into the billions, a secret rot eating away at our family name. He needed a miracle, an $800,000 investment from the wealthy Lay family to save our home from foreclosure. But there was a problem. My sister, Yen, the golden child who could do no wrong, had driven home drunk and smashed a civilian minivan into a heap of twisted metal. My mother, a woman who wore her martyr mask like a second skin, reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her eyes were red, welling with practiced tears. "Luna," she whispered, her voice cracking with a desperation that felt like a trap. "You are so strong. You have always been the stable one. Yen is fragile. If she goes to jail, her life is over. The Lay family will cancel the wedding. We will lose everything." I stared at her, my skin crawling. She wasn't asking for help. She was asking for my life. "You want me to take the fall?" I asked, my voice flat. "It is just a few years," my father snapped, his boardroom authority masking his cowardice. "You have a career. You can work from anywhere. We need this marriage, Luna. We did what we had to do to protect the family." That was the moment the last string of loyalty snapped. While they were busy gaslighting me, I felt a vibration in my pocket. A bank alert. I pulled my phone out and felt my stomach drop. Over the last month, my mother had been bleeding me dry. Using her access to our emergency joint account, she had drained 2 billion VND in small, calculated increments of 200 million. She had waited until I was asleep to initiate the transfers. Len Lute stealing my phone to delete the one-time password notifications before I could ever see them. She had used my own sweat and late nights to fund the business trust that would serve as Yen's dowry. They broke me then. But today, I am the one holding the hammer. "I understand," I told them at that table, my voice a whisper of the storm to come. "I say handle it." They thought I meant I would surrender. They didn't realize that as a security analyst, I don't just find leaks, I plug them. Permanently. Detective Vance leans back in his chair, the yellow light of the interrogation room casting deep shadows under his eyes. He slides a heavy plastic bag across the steel table. Inside is my driver's license, smeared with a smudge of dirt from the floorboard of the wrecked SUV. "We have your ID, Luna," Vance says, his voice a low, tired rumble. And we have an anonymous witness who saw a woman matching your description sprinting from the crash. Your parents and sister? They're distraught. They told me they've been worried about your drinking for months. If you confess now, the district attorney might show some mercy. He thinks he's playing the good cop. He thinks I'm the broken daughter about to crumble. I don't give him the satisfaction of a single tear. I don't even defend myself. Detective? I say, my voice as cold and sharp as a scalpel. I'm the primary account holder for my family's enterprise cellular plan. I pay the bills. I manage the data. I slide my phone toward him. I don't explain the back-end coding, or how I bypass the standard user interface. I just show him the result. Look at the tower pings. I point to a glowing map on the screen. At 9:24 p.m., the exact moment that anonymous 911 call was placed, the device registered to my mother, Mrs. Vin, didn't ping a tower downtown near the crash. It pinged a localized node in Oakbrook Estates. She was sitting in her living room 12 miles away when she claimed to see me running from the scene. Vance's jaw tightens. He looks at the screen, then back at me. The good cop facade is evaporating. That doesn't prove. It proves perjury, detective. And look at this. I tap the screen again. My biometric data from my smartwatch is displayed in a clean, undeniable graph. My heart rate at the time of the collision was 58 beats per minute. I was in a state of deep REM sleep in my apartment. Unless I can commit a felony hit and run while medically unconscious, you're holding the wrong person. The silence in the room is heavy. Vance isn't looking at a suspect anymore. He's looking at a weapon. I'll tell you what, I whisper, leaning in until our knees almost touch. I'll stay in this cell for another 12 hours. Let them think their plan worked. Let them feel safe. I need that time to finalize the paperwork that will ensure they never breathe free air again. Vance looks at the two-way mirror, likely at his captain. He stands up, the metal legs of the chair shrieking against the floor. He doesn't say a word. But the way he picks up the evidence bag tells me everything. The countdown hasn't just started. It's nearly over. Vance didn't just walk out. He moved like a man with a purpose. While he was gone, I sat perfectly still, staring at the small, scratched camera lens in the corner of the room. My family thought they had silenced me, but they forgot that I'm the one who wired their world. The card was a mess, Vance said, slamming the door behind him as he returned. He tossed a tablet onto the table. Yen tried to format it. She used a basic wipe tool 3 times. She thought she was being smart. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. She's a hobbyist, detective. I'm a professional. She forgot that the SUV's fleet management software, the one my firm manages, doesn't wait for a manual save. The second those sensors registered a 40G impact, it triggered an emergency uplink. A low-resolution backup was ghosted to a private cloud server before she even opened her car door. I tapped the tablet, and the footage flickered to life. It was grainy, but the audio was hauntingly clear. You could hear the sickening crunch of the minivan's frame, the hiss of the airbags, and then, Yen's voice, shrill and hysterical. I hit them. Oh God, I think they're dead. Then came my father's voice, filtered through the car's Bluetooth system. Cold. Calculated. Yen, get out of there. Now. Leave your phone. Take Luna's ID from the glove box and drop it on the floor. Do it. Or the lay deal is dead. We'll handle the rest. Vance watched the screen, his face turning a dark, dangerous shade of red. He wasn't just looking at a hit and run anymore. He was looking at a coordinated criminal conspiracy. A mother who lied to 911. A father who coached a fugitive. And a sister who left a family to die for the sake of a wedding dress. This is a masterpiece of betrayal, Vance whispered, mostly to himself. It's not just a betrayal, detective. I corrected him, my voice flat. It's a digital roadmap to their prison cells. They thought they were burying me. They didn't realize I was the one who dug the hole. Vance grabbed his radio. Dispatch. Get a warrant for Oakbrook Estates. All 3 of them. And tell the tactical team to be ready. We aren't just bringing them in for questioning, we're bringing them in for the long haul. I leaned back, the cold metal of the chair finally feeling comfortable. The trap was set. Now, all I had to do was wait for the party to start. The Lay family's ballroom was a sea of white lilies and silk, a monument to a marriage built on a lie. I stood at the back, dressed in the charcoal polo of the AV team, a headset draped around my neck. No one looked at me. To the wealthy elite, service staff are invisible, a glitch in the hardware they choose to ignore. I found the lead technician, a kid named Hai who looked like he hadn't slept since the 90s. I didn't hack his console. I simply leaned in and handed him a canister of limited edition Cohiba cigars I'd borrowed from my father's study. My boss wants to run a last-minute surprise for the Lay family, I whispered. Check the HDMI 2 bypass. I'll handle the switch so you can take 5 in the smoking lounge. His eyes lit up at the sight of the cigars. He didn't ask for a work order. He just nodded and vanished. I stepped up to the board and plugged in my hardware bypass. On the stage, Yen looked like a doll in a $5,000 gown. My mother stood beside her, beaming, while my father adjusted his tuxedo, looking like a man who had just escaped a death sentence. To Yen and our new family, my father announced into the microphone, his voice booming with fake pride. A union built on tradition and integrity. I hit the enter key. The screens behind him didn't flash a montage of childhood photos. Instead, the high-definition feed from our living room erupted onto the 60-foot LED wall. The audio was pristine. "Luna is strong," my father's voice echoed through the ballroom, cold and sharp. "She can survive a few years in a facility. Her career is already built. Yen needs this marriage, and we need that investment to save the house. We sold her out, and she's too stupid to realize the trap is already shut." The ballroom went deathly silent. You could hear a pin drop. Then, the sound of a champagne glass shattering on the marble floor. Ba Lone, the groom's mother, stood up. She didn't scream. She didn't cause a scene. She simply walked toward the stage, her heels clicking like a firing squad. "Tradition and integrity?" she asked, her voice dripping with venom. "You tried to pawn off a fugitive and frame your own daughter to steal my family's money? Lone, please." "It's a misunderstanding," my mother stammered, her face turning a sickly shade of gray. "The investment is void," Ba Lone barked, turning to her son. "And I want my 500 million VND dowry returned by tomorrow morning, or I'll have my lawyers strip the skin off your backs." Yen began to sob, a pathetic, high-pitched wail that filled the room. But the sound was cut short by the heavy thud of the ballroom's main doors being kicked open. 6 tactical officers flooded the room, their flashlights cutting through the expensive dimness. Detective Vance led the way, his eyes locked on Yen. "Yen Vin, you are under arrest for felony hit-and-run and conspiracy." Vance's voice was a roar. I stood in the shadows of the AV booth, watching as they slammed my sister face first into the silk-covered stage. My parents were shoved against the wall, the martyr and the patriarch reduced to trembling, cuffed criminals. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel regret. I just watched the sweat on my father's forehead as he realized his empire of cards had finally collapsed. The ballroom was a tomb of expensive silence as the zip ties hissed shut around my father's wrists. My mother was hyperventilating, her martyr facade melting into a mask of pure, ugly terror. Yen was being hauled toward the exit, her white silk train sweeping through spilled red wine like a trail of blood. I stepped out from behind the AV console. I didn't look for a hug, and I didn't wait for an apology. I simply watched them go. 6 months later, the legal dust has finally settled. Yeren was sentenced to 6 years in state prison for felony hit-and-run and tampering with evidence. The judge was particularly unmoved by her tears after seeing the tribute video I played at the party. The court also ordered a restitution payment of $142,000 to the family in the minivan. My parents didn't escape the blast radius. They were both convicted of felony obstruction of justice and conspiracy to commit perjury. While they avoided long prison terms, the legal fees and the immediate withdrawal of the Lay family's investment triggered a total financial collapse. To pay their debts, they were forced to liquidate the mansion. They lost everything: the cars, the club memberships, the reputation they valued more than their own daughter. Last I heard, they were living in a cramped 2-bedroom rental in a part of town they used to mock. A few weeks ago, I received a collect call from a correctional facility. It was Yin. Her voice was thin, stripped of its usual spoiled edge. "Luna, please," she sobbed. "Mom and Dad are broken. You have so much money now with your promotion. Just help us with the legal appeals. We're still family." I didn't get angry. I didn't even raise my voice. I just listened to the hollow echo of her desperation and felt nothing. Indifference is a powerful thing. I waited for her to finish, then I hung up and blocked the number. That was the last piece of trash I needed to take out. My life now is quiet. I moved into a sun-drenched apartment downtown, far away from the shadows of Oakbrook Estates. My chosen family consists of people who value the truth over a bank balance, colleagues who respect my mind, and friends who actually show up when things get messy. Looking back at that night on the highway, I realized they didn't just try to frame me for a crime. They tried to steal my identity because they didn't think I was worth as much as the golden child. But here is the lesson I learned, and it is one I hope you never have to learn the hard way. Blood doesn't make you family. Loyalty does. You are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you, even if you share a last name. Trust is a currency, and my family spent theirs until they were spiritually bankrupt. I used to wonder what I did wrong to deserve their betrayal, but I realized the problem wasn't me. It was their entitlement. They thought I was a spare, but they forgot that the person who builds the fortress is the only one who knows how to tear it down. I am Luna. H. I am a daughter of no one. And for the first time in 30 years, I am finally free. If you were in that interrogation room, watching your own parents sell your freedom for a paycheck, would you have protected them? Or would you have burned it all down to save yourself? Tell me your story in the comments. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You're asking, Luna, why did you wait so long? Why did you let them drain 2 billion VND before you finally pulled the trigger? It is easy to judge from the outside. But when it is your own flesh and blood holding the knife, the blade feels different. Let's break down the psychology of why smart people stay in dumb situations. In behavioral science, we call this intermittent reinforcement. But I like to call it the slot machine effect. Luna's family treated her like a gambler treats a Vegas terminal. Most of the time, they gave her nothing but coldness and demands. But every once in a while, they'd drop a crumb of hope, a hug from her sister, a "we missed you" from her mother. Luna wasn't being weak. She was addicted to the possibility that they might finally love her for who she was, not just what she could provide. Toxic families are masters at keeping you invested just enough so you don't walk away before the big heist. Now, let's talk about financial self-defense. Luna is a senior data architect, and she survived because she stopped thinking like a daughter and started thinking like an auditor. The first smart move she made was the enterprise plan strategy. Most people see a family phone plan as a way to save $10 a month. Luna saw it as a digital paper trail. By maintaining the master administrative privileges, she turned her family's primary tool of communication into a GPS-tracked evidence locker. The street smart lesson here? Never relinquish the master key to your digital or financial life, especially to people who have a history of being technologically illiterate, only when it's convenient for them. The second move was the biometric alibi. Scammers and manipulators rely on he said, she said drama. They want to drown you in emotions. Luna countered their theatrical tears with 58 beats per minute. She used clinical, cold data to make their lies look like a messy, unorganized failure. When you are being framed, whether it is for a crime or just a mistake at the office, stop arguing. Start documenting. Finally, let's look at the trust dissolution. Luna didn't just move out. She executed a strategic eviction. By holding the house in a revocable living trust and tying their residency to a fiduciary duty, she made their exit a legal certainty, not an emotional debate. The verdict is simple. You cannot negotiate with people who view your success as their communal property. Luna didn't betray her family. She simply stopped subsidizing their dysfunction. She invested 2 billion VND in a very expensive lesson, but the return on that investment was her soul. If you have ever been the designated sacrifice for your family's mistakes, I want to hear from you in the comments. How did you get out? Or are you still waiting for that slot machine to pay out? Hit subscribe to keep your mind sharp and your perimeter secure. I will see you in the next one.